outline of training outcomes, presentations that could be reused on research data management, fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable principles, data management plans, data sharing and publishing, and this course also includes exercises that you can include in your training activities, for example, fair game and additional resources. And we also collected a list of serious games about open science, because gamification is a good approach when you want to make sure that early career researchers or students or even senior researchers, because we've seen senior researchers playing serious games as well. So they help you to introduce open science and research data management topics in a fun way. So there is a long collection of games that we tested and recommend. And after all this series of train the trainer events, we realized that it would be good to have a community of trainers. And this year we launched an open science trainers community, which includes about 60 people from different countries. We have colleagues from China, for example. And we meet every month. And once a month we decide a topic. So our next meeting is in September, and it will focus on reproducibility and open data. And together we discuss what is the best approach to train on reproducibility and open data, what are good reusable materials we recommend. And sometimes we also decide to create new materials. So that's a link to our document where we keep all the links during those sessions, and this community is open to everyone who is interested in open science training. So if you are one of them, please let me know and join. And sometimes we discuss approaches to raise awareness, because even before you start training, you need to create a need for research data management and open science. And recently we had an excellent session with a group of early career researchers in Nigeria who launched a national research data management and open science advocacy and also institutional activities. So that was a very interesting discussion. And if you are interested in this topic, check the recording. Received a request from one of our trainers to create a training outline on open science for health sciences, and we created this resource, which is also a PDF and a set of web pages covering different topics related to research data management and open science, but in health sciences, and also resources for facilitators and learners. We also received a request to create a set of courses on artificial intelligence and open science. And that's a course that my colleague created, which also exists as a set of web pages. And now I would like to ask everyone, what are your open science training needs? What can we do together? So one way, like I said, is to join this community. Another way is just express your needs, and we can discuss what we can do together, how we can support, maybe can set up another community if there is a need. So now over to you now, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Jyoti has a question.
So my question, hi Irina, Jyoti here, based in India. So my question is around for tools used for research data management. So do you, for your own purpose or during the training purposes, do you suggest only open source tools for data management, or do you also use some proprietary or enterprise softwares as well?
Our approach is really to focus on free and open source tools. So we don't recommend commercial enterprises. And I see a comment that this work is similar to Open Life Science. It's indeed, and we reuse a lot Open Life Science materials. So we're great that there is this movement as well. And also one of the sessions that we had focused on using free and open source tools in training activities, and we collected a list of good tools and resources, and I'll drop a link in the chat.
Sure. The question that arises is, what about when some data is to be kept private? How do you achieve that with open source tools for data management? So some data might be publicly accessible, whereas some data needs to be kept private. So how do you tackle this with open source technologies?
It depends what is at privacy level. So if it's only closed access, if no other special protection is required for that type of data, then you can still use free and open source software to set up your data repository, and you can deposit data in closed access there. But if there is a need to, also if there is a need to anonymize, there are free tools to do this anonymization and provide access to data in anonymized way. If we're talking about real secure storage, where there is a need for encryptions and everything else, I'm not sure I can recommend a specific open source tool, but I'm sure there are such tools. It's just not really my area of expertise. Maybe other colleagues know.
Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Thanks for the response.
Okay. Next question from Thailand. Nida, please.
I have two questions for now. The first one is there any certification after complete any courses? And the second one is about the register the trainer. Is there any requirements or description in order to be the trainer?
Open Science Trains the Trainer bootcamps, we provided certificates to those who completed the course, and also so it was set up in a way that people had to attend certain amount of sessions. They had to do assignments, and after that they had to fill out an assessment form, and everyone who filled that form out received a certificate that they completed this online Open Science Train the Trainer course. And there are also different approaches to certification when these courses are embedded in universities, and usually students receive credits, for example, if they complete a course. And for Open Science Trainer community, if you are interested in this topic and if you want to be part of the discussions, just send me an email about this, and I'm dropping a link in the chat, not a link, my email in the chat. Just send me an email and I'll add you to our mailing list, because we also have a mailing list where we realize that not everyone can attend every meeting every month. So just please send me an email and I'll add you, and just thanks a lot. Thank you. I'll add you, Nida. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Next speaker, Dr. Nida from Thailand, about the Thai list. The floor is yours. She's from Uninet.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Nida from Thai List by Uninet. As part of Thai List, Thai Library Integrated System, as part of Thai List, Thai Library Integrated System by Uninet, we have long been committed to enhancing the accessibility, efficiency, and quality of the library service. TILIS stands for a vision of creating a dynamic and interconnected network of knowledge where resources are seamlessly shared and bring academic community together. So today, I will share pain points and satisfaction survey from users and hope to explore, challenge, and to see the opportunities within this network. This is not a chance to showcase our progress, but also an invaluable opportunities to learn from another, exchange ideas, and to strengthen the collaboration within this APAN network. Okay, so we started this list since 1990, and we focus on these 4 parts. The first one is to be Center of Information and Communication Technologies for Research. Next, it's to promoting and support the collaborative research and resources. Next, to promote and support knowledge development. And the next one is to be application of IT or for organization management and dissemination to network members. Okay, summary. So since 1990, TILIS has significantly contributed to advancement of research and education in Thailand through our services such as reference database, union catalog, iThesis, Autolib, and TDC. And we continue to support and enrich the academic and research communities benefiting society at large. Okay, from APAN57, I have got information from Dr. Chai that we should gather the data from our users to see their pain points. So the presentation from now will be the research data, which is the pain points from our users we collect from the event, yearly event, and all the participants are our users, such as library administrator, director, librarian, teachers, researchers, IT operation officers, students, academics, officer, library staff, and IT manager. And the number of participations are 90 persons. Okay, and here's the some pictures from the events. Okay, so overview of Thailand Library Network. We can divide it into 3 parts. First one is share resource. So library and information centers can share digital resource and to ensuring wider across to information and knowledge. The other part is ILL or interlibrary loans. So we allowing users to create materials from other libraries within the network. And the last one is collaborative projects, such as the event I have shown you before. Okay, so the presentation from now will be the pain points. The first one, so it's the issue with acquiring and storing books or other resources. So the frequent problems is many respondents report issues in acquiring and storing books and other resources. Second one is resource limitations. Limitation in resource including budget constraint and insufficient physical space to store it. And the last one, organizational issues, which were highlight making too difficult to track of inventory and manage new acquisition. Okay, second one is the effectiveness and ease of use of library resource management system. Some found the system is easy to use, which is facilitate the workflow and resource management tasks. And the other reports that the system was only usability and functionality could be improved. Okay. Next one is the challenges in user service. The common issues, the primary issues report in providing user service include difficulties in answering and assisting with book search. And the other, it's the pain points about search functionality and system-related issues. Okay, next is the user satisfaction evaluation, which is each question indicates 5 indicators. So here's are the indicator of each question: function requirement, usability, performance, security, and value and cost saving. The number of participations in this user satisfaction survey is 230 persons, and all of them are users. Okay, before we presenting the data of the satisfaction survey of these 5 services, okay, here's the introduction of these 5 services. Okay, first one is the reference database, which we provide the academic research database service to higher education. So right now we offer them to access 9 databases. Okay, next one is Union Catalog. Is the database system complies bibliographic records of library resources, which is within international standards. Okay, and it facilitates users to searching and verifying library resources, and they can like use a single search interface, and also they can do ILL, inter-library borrowing of the resource. Okay, the other service is iThesis. It's a like thesis data management system designed for prepare the thesis. And the system also includes the tools for plagiarism detection and management of doctoral and master level research. Okay, next one is the AutoLib. It's the automatically library system, and we tailor for Thai higher education universities for different 65 locations. Okay, last one is Thai Digital Collection, or nickname TDC. Okay, it's the database that compiles these higher education thesis, research paper, academic articles, and rare books. And here's all the satisfaction survey data of every services. I will just go through it real quick. Most of the data has shown that the satisfaction results were positive and very good. Next pain point is the need for additional support from management. First one is to support requirements. They express the need for additional support from management to address users related issues. The second one is policy and management. They identify the need for better policies and management practice to effectively handle users' problems. And the last one is the users and the resources and budget. So they request the budget support to improve service delivery and address operational challenge. Okay, here's more pain point, which is about the factors causing discomfort or dissatisfaction at work. The result has shown that no matter, and there are some collaborative issues in order to work as a teamwork. Okay, here's the summary of key findings. For the key pain points, the analysis reveals that the primary pain points include issues related to resource management, user service, and need for enhanced support for management. And next one is about the workplace environment. There are opportunities to improve the library resource management system or user service and overall support mechanism. And the last one is about potential for improvement. So after we have gathering all the data from users, we addressing these pain points can lead to more efficient, user-friendly library system, ultimately enhancing both staff and user satisfaction. Okay, here's recommendations for improvement. I will go through it real quick. Okay, first one, enhancement resource management system. And then next, enhance user services. And next, implement systematic user feedback mechanism. And increase support from management, enhance workplace environment, and implementation continuous improvement program. Okay, for the conclusion, so we are continuing to support research and Thailand education, continue to investment in infrastructure, security, stakeholders engagement is, and stakeholder engagement is essential for our success. Okay, last one. We, as me, extend our sincere gratitude to APAN for award us as the Excellence in Advancing Research and Knowledge Dissemination Award. So we have planned that this recognition will be the benchmark for Thai Library Network and will be passed to our cooperative network, I mean Thailand Libraries in coming year. We would like to give the awards for Thai universities as this awards for top 5 university using Union Catalog and for TDC, Thai Digital Collection as this criteria. Okay, so thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Chai, so much for having me here.
Okay, thank you. Any question from the floor or online participant? This is the result from what we had discussed in APAN58. Try to find the pain point for the local host. And here in Pakistan, I don't know that we can do that or not, but I hope we could. Kasu-san would, please.
Yeah, I have. Thank you, Nida and Chai, for the follow-up from the previous APAN meeting. So, but I would like to clarify the structure or the services provided by the Uninet. So the Uninet is Inland and also providing this kind of library-related service, right? In addition to the network. So is there any other related service the Uninet is now providing to the library space in Thailand?
Okay, not only 5 services as like IT application, Uninet provide infrastructure as you have known before, like internet for the universities also.
So by responding to this, on the survey, so what do you think as a Uninet can do for the Thai library as a inland? So this is a kind of the request from the library side, right? So you presented. So maybe as an inland, as a Uninet, you have to respond to this request to the library, right? So which kind of, what kind of the collaboration or advanced relationship will be happened between the library and Uninet from now on?
Okay, from now on, we will continue the event which I presented before, which is library network event, this one. Okay, and we will award them for the libraries which can complete any of these criteria to be like, because we were very gratitude from APAN that gave us the awards. So we will set this as like the benchmark for Thai library to encourage them to improve their operations or system and like to continue the collaboration or community network.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, any further question? The next speaker, Marty.
It has been really interesting, and I think this is a great opportunity. So I'd like to thank everyone for giving me this sort of time to basically pitch actually three things. So the idea was that I would give a presentation about the Research Data Alliance, and then I started thinking that what actually is the Research Data Alliance. There's sort of three things, which is the first and foremost, there's the community of few thousand experts in data management on different aspects of fair data, ranging from disciplines from sociology to read data, interoperability, or material sciences. I think all of them, they are very keen on seeing that, okay, can we use our approaches to solve problems in different domains? So there is this sort of inherent curiosity about cross-disciplinary activities and so on. So the plenary meetings, they are very fun events because you end up with the situations like recruiting somebody from the botanical gardens to work with the wind energy and so on. Then the second thing, there are the groups that identify the common interests and potentially sort of these cross-disciplinary common interests and channel them into groups that eventually will produce the outputs that are then endorsed as community recommendations. And these two things, they are completely volunteer-based, so it's community-driven process and so on. And then you have the third thing, which is the professional support structure. So there is the secretariat, regional, national networks, and support projects like the RDA Tiger that I work with. So with this sort of setting of the concept on the stage, then I'll jump into the presentation and looking at a little bit in more detail. So RDA, as I said, it's an organization and a community. It recently celebrated its 10th year of existence. And the idea is that we want to reduce the barriers to data sharing and exchange. So provide a platform where people discuss common approaches to these social and technical issues that need to be solved in order to make the data, open data, a reality. And I think one of the common themes in the previous presentation was that you have this funny situation where you need to have the technology base, and you need to have the services, you need to have the infrastructure, but then also you need to have this community engagement and essentially this sort of, let's say, soft infrastructure in a way that users are aware of the services, and then also that the service providers get the feedback that, okay, this is what we need, and so on. So how does the RDA work? It's a global organization, so there's quite a lot of attention paid to make sure that, let's say, one of the regions is not overrepresented and so on. And as I said, it has a structure and process for creating groups that focus on specific subtopics of this fair data. And in these sort of groups, you have the working groups, which I like to call these the tip of the iceberg. So you have this focused group that has a limited lifespan, let's say year to year and a half, and they produce the outputs. They basically make a commitment that a year and a half from now, you will have a recommendation that can be then endorsed by the community or commented by the community and so on. Then you have an interest group, which operate without a time limit. So this is more or less that we have challenged, we have identified a group of people that have similar interest in a roughly same domain. And typically the interest group, they stay active for quite a long while, and they spin off working groups to sort of focus on specific issues and so on. And finally, communities of practice. It is, let's say, a grouping of or mix of these sort of interest groups and working groups, looking into let's say, certain discipline or research domain. So, like I mentioned, there is this agricultural data community of practice. So, looking into fair data issues in this sort of broad field. Looking into it in more detail, so it's always nice to have numbers there. 89 groups. I'm not actually sure it is still accurate, but there is sort of roughly 35 working groups, 53 interest groups, and then 1 community of practice. About 14,000 individual members that actually have registered on the website. Now, there's always, when you give a number like this, there's always the question of how many of these are actually active. But these plenary events, they collect, I think, 500 people typically that actually show up in person. So I think quite a few of these people are actually present and engaged. Some statistics, mostly academia and research, but then let's say public administrations and enterprise and industry also represented. In addition to this, there's organizational members and affiliate members. So there is a structure that allows RDA to create this formal relationship with the other organizations. So, and this, one of the guiding principles of the RDA as an organization is that avoid overlaps. So we are really keen on hearing about the organizations working in related fields and try to sort of align them and create these links and collaborative agreements rather than sort of trying to do everything ourselves. There's certain flagship outputs actually in the first session of today. I actually noticed there was one of these outputs that was used related to software. So I was really happy to hear about it. Also, this global open research commons model was also something that again was mentioned, and I again made me very happy to hear. And usually when these outputs are generated, then there's an attempt to create these adoption cases. So if there's a recommendations, usually part of this endorsement process is that we find cases where we can actually say that, okay, this is how it has been used, and so on. So looking at the value of RDA, thinking about because how we can be complementary to, for example, APAN and events like this. So I think fair data and data management and so on, they are the core elements of most of the research and development activities. And discussing these in, let's say, global open forum can be beneficial. So it kind of help make these developments, let's say, international and make people aware that, okay, this is an activity that is done in Asia, in Europe, in US, but basically find the partners and adoption cases also outside your own region. I also already mentioned this cross-pollination. So when you have an event or community that has very sort of broad range of interest related to the research data, then you have these cross-pollination opportunities that maybe discipline-focused events they don't sort of provide to the same degree. And having some kind of sustainability strategy. So RDA has been around for 10 years. There is a process for making sure that the outputs they are kept online, curated, and also taken up by the groups that follow the original developers. So the pitch in a way, how do we join? As an individual member, you just go to the website and register. Participating in plenary, these days there's one of them is always virtual and the other one is hybrid. So there is 2 opportunities to kind of see what is going on in a very very sort of focused way and engage with the people. And yeah, this is basically let's say, recent and upcoming events. So the next one is going to be in Costa Rica in November, a hybrid event, and then the next hybrid event will be in 25 in Brisbane, Australia. Now, going into the specific support structure, the RDA Tiger project. So we are focused on the working groups, because if you have externally funded project, it's very nice to focus on something that allows you to demonstrate the results in a limited time frame. So that was one of the reasons. The other one, of course, is that the working groups, they have the time pressure. So the idea is that we make the life of the co-chairs and the group members easier, and also that their work will have more impact. And this is done with the, let's say, in more detail, there is sort of lowering the barrier to start the working group. So if you think about it, okay, there is this question that I'm really interested in, but do I really want to go into and read the instructions on how do we start the group, what is the process, and so on. So actually contacting somebody who will actually walk you through this process, it already lowers the barrier. You still do the work, but there's basically somebody walking alongside you and say that, okay, well, this would be the next step, and so on. And then once the working group is running, you have the quality of life improvements in a way, added efficiency and visibility. I think quality of outputs, the project doesn't provide expert support directly, but I think whenever you are working with the document, having additional pair of eyes looking into the text already helps quite a lot. And in general, trying to make the RDA more sort of attractive and visible to solve issues. So in a way, the mission to provide services to facilitate and support well-defined working groups. So here the well-defined means that essentially a working group that is at least on the way to be endorsed by the community. So the services that we provide, the facilitation, it is basically somebody who is working with the co-chairs and keeping track of the progress and assisting them. It's kind of it's not a secretary, it is something like but assisting in a process, making sure that let's say things are being kept track on, that we are sort of following the timeline and alerting that if there are any issues to look into. Communications, so this is using the RDA channels to promote the working groups and their works. Output services, this is essentially creating a structure for keeping track of the outputs and relevant inputs in a coherent way, that you know which are the latest versions of the input documents and output documents, and make sure that they are in this knowledge base that allows you to see the connections between the authors and documents and so on. And finally, landscape and engagement, doing desk research typically, that okay, who are the players in this, looking into this specific topic, what are their interests and so on, and providing input then that will help the co-chairs to focus the activity in sort of areas where the gaps are. And yeah, let's say in a more sort of concise way, looking into this, that okay, outputs are impactful and then used. And I think maybe the top right corner, letting the experts concentrate on being the expert rather than somebody who is scheduling meetings and so on. And yeah, to support all this, there's a quality control, basically analysis of the pilot working groups that are quite far along. And we are sort of always looking into ways that we can adjust the approach. So there's this sort of co-design and also the selecting the working groups. There is a process which is transparent, that we analyze the request for support always in the same way and provide feedback then that allow the groups then to fine-tune if necessary. So the application process, it's basically simple. You go to the website and click on Apply Now. There's a form that you should fill in with the instructions where to submit it in detail. The next deadline is end of August. So if I think if you have a working group in mind, you can, at least in theory, you could even submit right now and get the support already before the end of the year. So with this, I would like to finish with the contact details, and yeah, always happy to answer the questions. And I also included as a direct contact Trish, who is recently appointed as the regional community manager for Oceania and East Asia. So she's on a, let's say, roughly same time zone as most of the participants of the meeting, which might be helpful if you want to have a quick response. So thank you. If there are any questions, I'm always happy to answer them now or later on.
Okay. Thank you, Matti. Any question for Matti?
So maybe there are so many applicable or referable things we can, use from the RDA output to our, the practical implementation or, the development. For instance, if we develop our own data platform, maybe we can apply some of the output from the RDA, and, many are happening right now. But as you, as the RDA people and the IOSC people, so do you have any something like a list of the things that IOSC is now utilizing the output from the RDA outcome, or something like the relationship between RDA and IOSC in terms of the specification, or especially focusing on the interoperability or functionality, or the standards, or something.
I think if it's a new disciplinary project, then looking into the fair data maturity model could be one of these, let's say, paving the way towards the data interoperability. Kind of checklist that, okay, you have certain aspects of the metadata and so on. For the service interoperability, of course, there's the global open research commons approach, which is more sort of abstract framework that is probably sort of worth looking into, and IOSC has been quite actively engaged with that. Now the interoperability, let's say, interaction between the RDA and IOSC, that is, I think at the moment it's more from the, let's say, IOSC side providing input through GORG. So there is an IOSC interoperability framework that starts to be a little bit aged document. I think it was published in 2021. I think the whole IOSC landscape is slightly in a flux. So there is the IOSC EU node and the whole sort of federated node structure that is emerging. And at the moment, the maybe again fairly abstract description of what the interoperability is based on would be the minimum requirements of the nodes approach. But this is basically just from the top of my head. So I think, like I say, I would, if you have a sort of specific question, sort of what aspect of interoperability, what domain, and so on, then I admit that I would have to go and do a little bit of desk research and think about, okay, who are the people that I would then get you in touch with.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe on Global Open Research Commons, they developed, the huge list of the standard or something for the interoperability. But as maybe the Sakuan that reported before, so there's a sort of the gap between the reality, the real implementation, and the list of the Global Open Research Commons outcome. So maybe we have to fill the gaps between two by applying the real application or practical application. And as I said to you before, so I'm going to think about the one by one, which kind of the aspect we have to think about from the that have to differ from the global open research GORG the list, and then maybe feedback to you anyway.
Quite a lot of activity, like major projects ramping up and really doing this concrete implementation. So having the running software to actually go with the standard, which is a few years back, about a year ago, there was one of these projects that was doing, let's say, on a much smaller scale, providing these mini grants for people to do concrete interoperability work on a smaller scale. So I think you would probably need both. Let's say the major project looking at that have the volume and ability to do the sustainability, and then these sort of smaller scale activities doing experimentation and proof of concept work, and that way sort of essentially verifying and validating the interoperability frameworks.
Thank you so much.
And, thank you very much, Matty. Before we
Thank you very much.
before we process to the discussion, well, another speaker supposed to come, but the big boss sent him to Karachi, so he cannot come. Dr. Sharif, so sorry, the last speaker not here, so we can go into the discussion session. But before that, since the chairman of the APAN is here, and he's already signed the certificate that the Dr. Nida talked about, the excellence. Maybe would you just say a little bit to this?
Yeah, thank you very much for the very insightful talk. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this kind of effort as APAN as a whole. I think as Yamaji Sensei said that we need some coordination in a very wide areas, so that I think we need to have more collaboration on this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we can continue to have further discussion. The first session, I believe Marcus has a few questions, but he saved it for this discussion session. Please, Marcus.
It's a little bit of a different direction to ask, but I think for certainly the first session, so we have an audience, participants in our working group that come from a few different backgrounds. We have a lot of technical people who have great technical platforms and they integrate complex technical systems. And then that lovely lady researcher asked the question about, could we do this? And everybody said, oh, well, we don't do that because we don't have specific things for every researcher. And then the other side we have is the policy people. And the policy people have, they have one tool, they have policies, right? And a wise man once said, policies are great for stopping bad things from happening, but they're not good for encouraging good things to happen. That's much more about culture change, the value proposition, encouraging researchers to do the right thing. And so I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask the question back of those original speakers and some of us after in the second session as well, is we started a conversation in Australia, 18 years ago now, about research data management. And a big part of that was culture change, and it was about working with researchers directly and using that to inform the various technical platforms that would eventually emerge. So we started off with the Australian National Data System, which ultimately became the Australian Research Data Commons. We've had lots of platform tools. We've had a lot of disciplines do their own developments, and somewhere they have to meet. And a lot of the people in our work on the technical platforms, but they don't meet with the discipline people enough, I think. So I'd be interested to know, the speakers we had was at Japan, Korea, and China, Yu-Chen. I don't know if Dr. Song, Dr. Song's here as well. Can you just talk about how they engage with the disciplines and use that to inform their platform planning? I can see Kazu-san nodding. I don't know if he wants to speak for Japan first or...
Yeah, please, Kazu-san, just like, and then Eugene.
Yeah,
and then
so
Matthew.
in order to make a bridge between the infrastructure, the sees and the needs between the inland and the real researcher, for instance, in my country, so for instance, the cabinet office is now have an effort, to make happen. So, for instance, in the big funding program, so they propose to utilize our the research data management system as much as possible and opening the data as much as possible by using the NII, the infrastructure. So doing like that way, this is also the kind of the policy aspect. We are covering the real practical example and making marriage between the two. And also as an NII, we are also, by of course, getting the money from the government, having a kind of that small experiment or the budget providing to the researchers for doing their research by using our platform. So like this way, so this is the kind of the chicken and egg story, but without having the real domain researcher, we can't get any the further request and their demand. Of course, so from the institutional aspect, so every university or research institution is now trying to stipulate a research data policy, but this is a kind of the institutional aspect, different from the domain aspect. So, so as a, the infrastructure provider, so we are collaborating with the institutional aspect to, extend to the, the university people how to do the research data management and how to utilize our tools. In addition to that, we are trying to extend our user from the domain aspect by giving the small amount of money to them and extending our community or end users. So yeah, so this is our approach. And if the Scenic and Kisti has a different idea, please introduce yours.
Yeah, the Korea situation is a little bit similar with, Kazakhstan in Japan. Actually, the most important thing is that I think the culture change is most important, and it's very difficult. I mean, when we start, focusing on research data management more than 10 years ago in KSD, it's almost impossible to strongly talk about these kind of issues in front of several kind of disciplines, including several kind of domains like geoscience, chemicals, and physics. When I met them, they always talk about it is almost impossible and it does not need anymore and does not need. So, but we focus on persuading them to understand why this kind of data management policy and systems and platform are important for the improving the open science environment and open science trends. Those kind of bottom-up approach has been developed in Korea with Kisti, with my colleagues. But we felt that there are, actually we have, in fact, it's a limitation in it because we have no, formal regulation like policy. Actually, we have no, at the time, we have no bills or regulations in Korea. So when we met the people in researchers in every disciples, we could not persuade them. So we started making a new bill a few years ago in 2019 and because of some of the Ministry of Science and ICT in Korea understand our efforts and they agreed our trends and plans for improving the research data management culture. So, but it takes a lot of time to make small articles new bills in Korea. So we fared wise make a new bills in Korea, but recently we hope that new bills about research data management will be successfully made and published. We hope that it will be in the next year. So I think that we started with a specific task or making the platform or technical support, but it's not enough for that. So we approached the both side, political aspect and the engineering or other technical approaches at the same time. So, but still, we still have a long way to go. For now, we only have former state of research data management, but we still have to go further for open science implementation in Korea. For example, KRDC, as I told you, is one of the next steps for the open science promotion in Korea. That's the current situation, I think. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Eugene, please.
I think in China, in CIC, we are in a similar boat, and the approaches that CIC teams use is like, for example, our team has a type of initiative is called Open Science Initiative, and they have some announcements and as like a small amount of money to support research teams or free resources, because our center like has network and computing some those type of resources. So if you participate in the Open Science Initiative, we'll share some free resources with them. The second is also related to policy, because we are not the headquarters or any type of administration that side, and we support the development of some of the standard recommendation of related division of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, but that's only the recommendation, is not like a mandate. So our teams, they need to work very closely with the research teams. They have not just scientists, because scientists are usually fully occupied. So they work very closely with the research teams, but also the open science. Another approach is because in IC, we not only, we also have other type of teams is like the public outreach. We also support the research team for that. So we provide some value-added services for them, because usually those research teams, they don't have time to make those some of the scientific contents easily or understandable by the general public. Because we also have the science communication team, have the public outreach team, so they also support that type of services. And within CAS, if I think one problem, yes, is required for the data evaluation. And my colleague of the General Data Center is working on it. But usually, if it's very important research teams and they don't have time for it, they will call them and say, you can approve this, and say something like the data quality is all right. So if they are very important scientists, it's really difficult, I think, for the IT team to refuse the approval, although perhaps sometimes they think the quality is not good enough. I think what we can do is we develop some tools to make those type of data submission or also sharing as simple as possible, and will need some time to get more people involved. But we do have this in the evaluation process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
Right.
additional comment from Thailand, maybe? Nida, do you have anything that related to this?
And interestingly, mentioning geoscience, in Australia, geoscience was one of the first groups that was really enthusiastic to share data, because the way the data was collected in Australia for things like commercial industry and also research bodies is that if the data was collected, it had to be published, which basically meant they had to store the rock cores in a central facility in Geoscience Australia. And so they had an understanding of the benefits of sharing the data. And this became really obvious when we had all of these individual states or provinces, depending on what you call them, wanted to share data and discovered that their coordinate systems were 200 meters wrong relative to each other. And nobody had ever noticed that until they started sharing the data. I come from an astronomy background. My PhD is in astronomy, and astronomers have been sharing data since the 1950s. As soon as it was digital, people were sharing because you only get one chance to collect the data. And so geoscience, astronomy, biosciences, interestingly, linguistics and musicology, social sciences and humanities, they were really good, and they were early starts. And what we found in our culture change discussions was that we could often find a domain champion to work with, a person, a researcher who really understood the benefits of this. And they spoke on our behalf. We could tell Dr. So-and-so, this is what you can now do. They went and did it. And then they would tell their entire discipline. And so we weren't selling the thing. We were there as technology people and translators, but we had the actual geoscientists, the actual astronomers, the actual humanities researchers doing that culture change for us. And so depending on the different contexts, and we've got many different contexts here and in the room, that might be an interesting approach. And just with the policy discussion, one of the things we managed to do with our government, and Kazu, I think, has mentioned the chicken and egg problem. One of the things we explained to our government was that they were funding research to collect data that had already been collected, but had been lost or misplaced or was inaccessible. And so they were wasting money. And if there's one thing governments don't like to hear, it's that they're wasting money, recollecting data. And so we spent a lot of time talking with the policy people and the writers of legislation about how this should be included, but it couldn't just be a policy that was a mandate. You have to do this. It had to be supported. It had to be, in English, we use the phrase, the carrot and the stick. The stick is the mandate. The carrot is the reason they will actually do it. So it's just really interesting to contrast here the different economies and different cultures. And I would really like to know if there's anybody in the room there from Pakistan who can talk about what's happening there. If anybody's there from HEC or something like that, or from the research groups. Chai, over to you.
Well, I think she left. She's here in the first session, but anybody here could give a take about what's going on in Pakistan?
I guess, this is not a different, so we can, think about to extend more discussion at the next APAN, the meeting about this kind of issue, how to collaborate or, how to relate to each other between policy developers and the service developers with the end users.
Please, go ahead.
So because Marcus and also other colleagues mentioned about the research teams, I think we have very similar activities. For example, the CODATA CN hosts the China Scientific Data Conference. A lot of speakers that we invited from China, they are scientists. They are not they are not IT persons. and some scientists are very active in open data activities in China. So I think for the similar purposes, and try to organize some type of forums during that conference, and also invite the person from the administration to attend. So through that type of communication, I think we share the same idea that the research teams, if the scientists, some key scientists in some fields, they share their stories about data sharing, and is much, much better compared with ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that Aisang's still here or not, but tomorrow they will have for the session for the open science for the UNESCO going to host it. So yeah, please, yeah, tell us about the, I mean, related to this, and then tomorrow also that we're going to have a session.
Well, I'm not too sure if I can contribute now, but it's more like, yes, tomorrow we will have two speakers from Pakistan. So all these questions in the Pakistani context can also be explored for sure. So, and then yes, we will be interested to as UNESCO to see what we can do then to facilitate those policy discussion and have more of your input for that together. Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps Marcus tomorrow we can have some answer for Marcus' question. Please, Elena, you have anything, please?
I think what's also interesting how researchers collaborate beyond the borders and how they share data across national boundaries. Because what we've just discussed, it seems like there are some kind of national solutions, but if you go beyond national solutions, and that question remains, then maybe we, for the next meeting, maybe we could have something like a call for stories, how researchers share data across national boundaries, and what are challenges, solutions, and what kind of next level solutions are needed, and maybe that could guide our discussion.
Please, Marcus.
Yeah, I think, Irina, so this is not all about, the policy and the regulation. And also, we have to think about resource, the computing resource sharing, because, that usually the computing resource, including the, the storage and the computing resource and the service is owned by the country. So if we think about the resource sharing, we have to think about, how to pay each other about, the resource, the occupation or something like that way. Of course, everybody can log in by the EduGain or, the Shibboleth or some authentication. But after that, we have to think about, how to, the cover cost around the infrastructure. If we think about, the beyond the country.
Yeah, I don't know that Director Franz still in here, he show up, but he's here or not. We have been discussed with a Copernicus program for Philippines that they got already agree, and then we'll share like a Miller, become a Miller size for a Copernicus program. So I'm talking with him that could they expand from Philippines to perhaps in ASEAN first, and then later to Asia Pacific. Because though I have been talking with geoscience through Andrew Howard, because Andrew Howard hosting or the whole Copernicus data database or whatsoever, but they don't have the budget to do that. They only cover within Australia only. So after 3 months of discussion, it's go back to the budget problem that they would love to do it, but they don't have it, and they don't have budget, they don't have resources to do it. So at the beginning with France, with the beginning with Philippines, I just asking them that, hey, would you add this in your mind? That not just only there. Think about the expansion as well, so they can prepare the budget for. Please, Matti.
So I think this is sort of the familiar problem in a way that you have resources that you actually need a budget for the infrastructure, and at the same time, for example, observational data is something that needs to be shared, because you can't go back to Earth 20 years ago and take another sample. Maybe another sort of budget-related challenge is what I would like to call for sciences where the data sets are small. So you have the process where typically the data resides somewhere on laptops and that are hopefully backed up, but who knows. What approach that seems to have worked in some cases that I heard is essentially, I would like to call temporary business process outsourcing. So you have the data stewards that in some cases you have a roster of them that get assigned to research team, that they will actually take care of, let's say, the first version of data management plan, the first version of creating repositories and really helping, let's say, making the fair data practices automatic in the research team. Because once you have done it once with the help of external support, then the overhead of doing it the following times actually is relatively low. So it could be one of these sort of complementary approaches to, let's say, mainstream the fair data practices.
Okay, no. Then I think we come to the end of the session. We have like 5 minutes left.
It's really a very fruitful discussions. I don't have any questions, but I just want to say hi to Marcus. He's my course supervisor. Hi, Marcus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good to see you. I thought I recognized you in the audience. Oh, no, I can't be.
So I am on leave for 5 weeks from ANU Australia, and now attending this session. I just saw you and thought just say hi to Marcus. Thank you. It's nice to see you.
Pakistan to give a talk. Anyway, if there's any further comments or final words, then I think we come to the end of this session, and we will have tomorrow. Please, if you're available, join UNESCO session for the open and sharing as well under but this open science and AI thing. So if you have time, please join us tomorrow afternoon for first session, 1:30, I believe, for the tomorrow PM Pakistani time. Please. No more? Then see you. Oh, we should have a follow-up meeting as well, right? Yes. Okay. I'll send out an asking whatever in the mailing list, the group mailing list, and asking the appropriate time. Then we have a follow-up discussion.